Quick and very short conversation, short talk. Do I need an interpreter this side? You guys are doing perfect, right? Sure. Oh Lord, you know I have no friend like you. If heaven is not my home, then Lord, how should I do? The angels sing with me from heaven's window, and I can feel at home in this world anymore. Thank you. I'm going to talk to you guys. We are going to have a conversation, you and I, as soon as I can. Conversation about, so this is a lesson I learned at school when I was still at Helderberg. I finished at Helderberg in 10. So this is, I'm trying to compress a class into, how long do I have? I want to talk to you guys about something that's very simple but very important. I don't like complicating life, so please also don't complicate my life. I will not complicate yours, don't complicate mine. I want to talk to you guys about something we call culture. Hello? Amen. Hello? Amen. What are we talking about? Culture. Can I quickly ask anyone who is in the house who can define culture for me? Just a quick definition of culture.
It's a way of doing things.
A way of doing things, that's very true. But simply put, culture is it's a way of doing things or a certain way of life. Hello? Guys, come quickly, man. Are you not young? Culture is?
A way of doing things.
You must say it louder. Culture is?
A way of doing things.
Culture is?
The way of doing things.
All right. So I want to talk to you about the different types of cultures and then how these cultures sort of clash with one another. A way of doing things. Keep that in mind. I want to teach you. There are 3 types of cultures, okay? How many?
3.
Okay, you can say 3 only. How many?
3.
There are how many?
3.
3. Culture number 1 is called reared culture. Number 1?
Reared culture.
Reared culture. Number 1?
Reared culture.
Reared culture is the culture you are born into.
Yes.
You are born into it, you are raised according to it. And a culture, a way of life, please, when I say culture, don't confuse the two don't confuse tradition and culture. All right? Reared culture, for example, there are things that are done. I don't know how to put this without failing English. Okay, my surname is Manyane. I was raised in the Manyane family.
Yeah.
And I was born into the Manyane family. And in the Manyane family, there are ways we do things, and that's unique to us only.
Yeah.
Am I working with someone quickly?
Mm-hmm.
There are many churches here. I think I heard something about Madadeni. Am I saying it right?
Yeah.
There's Blessed Hope, I know. Which other one? Osizweni East. Oh. South and stuff like that. And some of us were born into the Adventist church, but were born into the Usizweni Adventist church. And there is absolutely no way that everything that happens at Blessed Hope happens at Usizweni. Yeah. Am I working with someone? Yeah. So you are born into it. So when you, like for example, where I come from, I come from many churches because I'm a pastor of many churches. But where I come from, where I was raised in Warrenton in the Northern Cape, we don't have a problem with a preacher without a jacket, without a tie. Yeah. When I arrive at home, I can wear a golf t-shirt and I can preach in it. At home, they are fine with it. But when I come here, I was wearing a tie the whole week because apparently this side of the country, part of how we were raised is that a preacher does not stand without a jacket and a tie. Am I working with someone? So we are born into this thing, and then there's culture. Culture number 2. Culture number 2 is called personal culture. Culture number 2?
Personal
Culture number 1? Culture number 2? Personal culture is exactly that. It's how I do things separate from how everyone else does things.
Okay.
Are we working together? Please come here, my friend. It's something as simple as what you see between my pastor here and myself. Look at my tie. Look at his tie. Are we working together? It's as simple as that. He fastens his tie this way. I think the last time I read about ties and knots, this is a French knot.
Okay.
And this is a diamond knot.
You, right?
So, are you learning? Okay. So, this is him. So, if you walk into a room and there are 2 ties on the wall, you can easily tell that this is Manyane, this is Nala. Personal culture.
Okay.
Are we walking together? Yes. Personal culture, you can sit down, Chief. Personal culture says that even though you were born into a culture, you practice that culture differently. We were born into a church that wears ties, but we wear the tie differently. So you can be identified personally. We can, for example, when I was growing up, at home they eat vegetables and stuff like that. But when you get into the house and there are plates on the table, you could easily pick up my plate because I hated vegetables. My plate was rice and meat, and that was it. But everyone else's had cabbage, had this, and that, and that. But at the same time, I'm raised into a culture where these things are cooked, but I don't do them the way they do them. Are we working together? Yeah. Culture number 1?
Culture.
What is that culture?
The way you were raised.
Quickly.
The way you were raised.
You are born into it. So you really don't have a choice. You found them doing things that way and you are raised to do them that way. Culture number 2? Which is a culture where you can be identified in the midst of everyone else that this one, no matter what, how we turn the tables around, it is this person. Am I working with someone? The culture number 3 is what we call learned culture. Number 3?
Learned culture.
Learned culture. Learned culture. Number 3?
Learned culture.
Culture number 3 is the culture, like we say, learned culture. It means that these are outside of your reared culture, personal culture. There are things you go around picking up from people. Then they also become a part of your DNA. Am I working with someone?
Yeah.
Are you learning?
Yes.
Are you listening to me?
Yes.
Are we working together?
Yes.
Culture number 3?
Learned culture.
Learned culture. This culture is, particularly this one, is the one that then causes everyone to fight. I watched the sketch here, and it's a very important sketch that we learned. And part of what we learned here is a bit of learned culture. So, where are they? Yes, the drum. No. Where's that one that was singing? Come here, come my come my child. Friend Okuzayo, come stand here. So what we heard from the sketch, we heard friend number what? We heard Amafe say to Mpumi that this is not who you are. We don't know you to be this person. And Mpumi says, it's not because I want to be. It's because of the circumstances. And Mpumi learned that you have to survive by doing this thing, by looking at all other people around. And she saw that this is how other girls survive. They find multiple men and then they collect that money, they take it home to raise their kids. But personally, that's not who she is. And in her family, that's not how she was raised. That's why this one knows it. She knows that this is not who you are. But this one says, I have to be this person because of the circumstances. Am I making sense with someone? Yes. You can sit down, thank you. So learned culture are the little things that we pick up. And learned culture is the one that always causes us to fight amongst ourselves. It causes us to be divided. It actually causes even your family members to be fighting with you. Your children, those of you who have kids in here, your children are not getting wayward but your children are learning new things as they go. And as they learn these things become part of their DNA. I will give you an example of learned culture, right? So, for example, I'm going to use one of the churches that I pastor in Johannesburg, right? So you are from, Matadeni East, right? And in Matadeni East, children or women cover their shoulders when they come to church. They do all these things, and then you leave this province and you go to Johannesburg. And when you get to Johannesburg, you get into a certain church that is somewhere in Sandton. Yeah. And that church does not care about your shoulders out. It does not care about the pastor's tie. It does not care about the pastor's jacket. And you leave home, and for the next 6 months, you are at that church every Sabbath. Oh, okay. You leave that church and you leave Matadeni, and you are at that church every Sabbath for 6 months. And for 6 months, for the first month, you are a child from Matadeni. You cover your shoulders. But the second month, you see that it's not necessary. Because somebody standing there, they have their shoulders uncovered. They are fine. You see that somebody standing there, they don't have a jacket, they don't have a tie. And everyone is okay. And so you then, for the next 4 months, you adapt into that church's culture. And then 6 months later, you come back to Matadeni and you come with your shoulders outside, and the entire church is against you. Simply because you learned a new culture. And it's not because, sometimes it's not consciously, you don't decide to drop your scarf. It's sometimes automatic because there's this thing called the subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind registers that here at this place, I see a lot of shoulders. So there shouldn't be a problem with my shoulders outside. So you don't wake up one Sabbath and decide that I'm not going to cover my shoulders. It happens to you slowly. You change slowly and you are learning a new culture. And then when you arrive here in Newcastle, you have a big problem because of your learned culture. Say it with me, because of your
learned culture.
Learned culture. I'll tell you a personal story as well. Chief, sit down. I'll tell you a story about myself. So I'm a township boy. I come from the township. Alright? And in the township, we like sitting at the corner. Yeah. We talk about soccer. We talk about cars. And we talk about girls. Yeah. That's township life. We chill at the corner. We leave school. After school, we sit at the corner. And then my life changes and I decide I'm going to be a pastor. So then I go to Helderberg, the holy mountain. Right? And at Helderberg, when I arrive, men chill together, not at the corner, but at the stoop, at the stairs of the boys' dormitory. But when we are sitting together there, the conversation has changed. It's not soccer, it's not girls, it's not cars, but it's theology. Because we are at school now. Yeah. We are talking about, what do you study at theology? We are talking about ecclesiology, we are talking about Greek, talking about eschatology, we are talking about missiology, we are talking about all these things, and we are sharing concepts. And this happens to me for 6 months. 6 months, but deep down in my heart, I miss home. I want to go home. And I miss my boys at the corner. And I arrive in Warrenton, I come back 6 months later, and we are chilling at the corner, and the conversation starts. Girl number one, soccer this, car this, and I'm sitting there and I'm looking at these guys and I'm thinking, there's more to life than this.
Yeah.
There's more to life than this. There's just more to life. And I decide that, 2 minutes is enough with these boys. I then leave. The next day I come back, I sit with them, and they go back to that life again. And I sit down and I'm like, this isn't it. I leave. Ultimately, do you know what they say to me? Yeah. They say to me, you think you are better since you became a pastor, You don't chill with us anymore. You think you are better than us. And it's not that I'm better than them. Yeah. It's just that I learned a new way of life. that is contrast to their way of life. Your children, when you guys go to university, you will get there. And part of the things that people fight about is, I don't know what type of families you come from, but when you have dinner, certain families have dinner, and they sit at the table at 7. But when you are at university, there's no table. There's a cafeteria. You go to the cafeteria, pick up your food, go to your room, sit and study. And you do that for 6 months. You ultimately get used to it. So when you arrive home and your mother says, dinner is ready, you go to the kitchen, take your plate, go to your bedroom. You are cultured to do it. Then those things start to cause tensions in culture.
Yeah.
All right? So I think I'm giving you a lesson and a warning that there are certain things that happen in the same space, but people do them differently, not because they are unruly or not because they are changed, but every one of us. That's why when you do a learner's license, a driver's license, when you do ID, when you do passport, they want your fingerprint because it is unique to you. So you will not do things the same way other people do. So when you grow up, when you begin to grow, and I think I'm speaking to young people here, when you begin to grow, certain parts of your life change. You don't change, or you don't plan to change, but certain parts of your life change so that you may suit the environment where you are. So when you are in school A and the other one is in school B, when you come together, there are things that you guys will agree on, but there are things that you will not agree on. But those things are not meant to cause you guys to have rifts and fight among yourselves. You must then begin to appreciate that there are things that others are learning outside of what we know that make them who they are. Then you begin to live together in unity. Am I making sense? Am I walking with someone quickly?
Amen.
Culture number 1.
Real culture.
Come with me quickly. Number 1.
Real culture.
Number 2.
Personal culture.
Number 3.
Learned culture.
Learned culture. In the middle of those cultures, that the one you are born with, the one you are, that is you, and the one you learn, there are things that we call communication cues. Hello? I think that people who did communication at school will know this thing. Communication cues are simply non-verbal communication. Mannerisms, yeah. Non-verbal communication mannerisms. In other words, these are signs that people do. They don't say, but by doing them, they are communicating. Am I walking with someone quickly? And so in the midst of these little cultures, there's a way that we communicate without saying it. Are we walking together? I love you just the way you are seated. I'm going to disturb you just a little bit. Can you hold this for your mother? Is it your mother? Okay. That's the way you are. Stand up. Face the church. I'm talking to you now. And what's the name? Katide. That's a traumatic surname for me. I'll tell you why I have to change. It's a very traumatic surname. That's why it's not registering in my head. I'll tell you about it during lunch. I'll never forget that surname. But I'm talking to you now. And this is how Makatide is sitting. And I see a lot of people are seated that way also. She has her arms folded and she's listening to me, or maybe I think so. But in psychology, psychologically speaking, when you are talking to a person and they fold their arms like this, they mean they are done with you. Stop talking.
Okay.
Huh?
Yeah.
Or don't come close, or anything of that nature. Psychologically, in psychology, when a person folds their arms, that's why I'm saying people communicate without communicating. So sometimes, you can say thank you, man. Sometimes we are having a conversation and the person's hands, and that's also how I know I'm done preaching, by the way. That when people start folding their arms in church, then I know I'm done. They're not interested anymore. It's been too long. All right? So communication cues suggest that when people don't have to say, A person does not have to say no for you to understand that they are saying no. You must just look at their body. A person does not have to say, I am interested. The psychology says, and it happens every time. I mean, even you girls or us boys, we do it. When we are seated and somebody says, hey, then you pull chest, hey, what mngani? You know that part of the story? That when we are seated together and we're just having lunch, and somebody says, hey, then all of us are like, hey, what? Then we pull chairs together. If you pull, you either pull a chair together or you lean forward. Psychology says if a person leans forward, then not only do they want to hear, but they are interested in what you are going to say.
Amen.
So, one pastor tells a story. He says he was in a certain, I think with the age here is good enough for me to use this example. He says they are in a certain town, right? And he's preaching. And while he's preaching, he needs an interpreter because they don't speak English. So while he's preaching, you know the things we do as pastors when we preach,
Right.
whatever these things mean. This pastor says he kept doing this. Are we walking together? He's here, he's preaching, he's emphasizing points. But when you are looking at this thing, communication cue wise, you can interpret it in so many ways. Number one, 3. Somebody saw a 3. Number 2, 0. Number 3, perfect. Precisely. So when you do this, you are communicating something, but not everyone reads it the way you are reading it. Because when I do this, peace. But a Kaizer Chiefs fan says, pause. Alright? Peace. Under normal circumstances, this is 2.
Yeah.
But this can mean peace. This can be cozy. This can mean I'm out. I'm out. Whatever it is, it has many meanings. But when we stand here, every one of us defines it differently. So this guy says he was preaching and he was doing this, and there's a lady in front of me. So when he preaches, and the lady is paying attention. And that's what a preacher does. I mean, sometimes you will see that the preacher is not preaching to one side, he's always this side. Because it looks like they are listening here. This side, their arms are folded. They don't look interested. But this side, everyone's eyes are on me. And so, there's one specific person that looks like they're very interested in what I'm saying, or they're about to cry, and I want to preach until they cry. You see? So my attention will be here, and we are communicating. It's communication cues. Alright, it's non-verbal, but we are speaking. I'm speaking to you using words. You are speaking to me using your non-verbal cues. So when you fold your arms, like I said, I'm done. When you start leaning, I'm done. When I'm preaching and one closes their eyes this side, you are all sleepy. I'm coming this side. So it's communication cues. And so this pastor keeps going, and this lady is fixated on the pastor. After church, the pastor goes, and the lady is right behind the pastor.
All right.
And the pastor sits and she sits. The pastor moves, she moves. She just keeps following the pastor until the pastor goes to the interpreter and says, "Sir, this woman is following me. What is it?" And the interpreter says, "I'll go talk to her." And he goes and whispers, "What's wrong? Why are you following the pastor?" And she explains. And the interpreter comes with embarrassment. So embarrassed. Says, "Pastor, here in this island, when you do this to a lady as a man, you are actually saying, yes. When you do this, you are inviting the lady to a private space. The rest is history, ne? Sure. Yeah, the rest is history. So all this time, even though the pastor was preaching Jesus earnestly, this woman had accepted the call beyond. She had accepted the call beyond the pulpit.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, or that? Yeah. So sometimes people are speaking, and maybe I must tell ladies and gentlemen this, that sometimes women are speaking, but but they are not saying anything. Because many men are in jail now because they read the wrong cue. Are we walking together?
Okay.
So we have pushed too hard, pushed towards the wrong direction because we assumed that we were doing the right thing, but people were communicating. Are we walking together? So I want to bring these three things, four. Read culture, personal culture, learned culture, communication cues. Everyone communicates differently. Where I come from, they know that they don't talk to me until I've defrosted. I'm not a morning person.
Okay.
I'm not a morning person. When I wake up, the best thing I've learned to do for myself when I'm at my mother's house is that I will wake up and not go out. So that no one talks to me. Defrosted by myself, alone, and you come and you want to talk and I don't want to talk and I look rude. Yesterday we were talking about at the tent, we were talking about grief, traumatic grief and stuff like that. Some people will not tell you to not be there for them. They will show you. But because you desperately want to be there for a friend, you keep pushing yourself until they push you and tell you don't come here anymore. So sometimes the best way to deal with it, man, is when we go to, if you have ever been to counseling, premarital, marital, postmarital, all these things, the first thing a counselor asks you is, why are you here and how can I help you? That's a good counselor who's not going to impose their help on you. But they are going to ask you, why are you here? And what can I do for you? So, sometimes, I'm addressing yesterday and then I come back here. Sometimes, when a friend is going through a lot, ask them, how can I be there for you?
Okay.
So that they tell you. That, Job's friends arrived and sat in silence for 7 days. But that was counsel for Job. Are we walking together? Anyway, so between these cultural cues and stuff, there's a way people speak. I know that isiZulu here in this, what is this place? In Newcastle, it's not isiZulu Saku Johannesburg. Apparently, you guys don't even consider that isiZulu there. Those ones don't speak. Those ones don't speak isiZulu at all. So, in between all these things, you have to learn how people culturally communicate. All right? Culturally communicate. You cannot go to Inkonzo Yamazayon and begin to say things that when you arrive in Inkonzo Yamazayon and say Maranatha, no one will respond. That's not their cultural cue. You will not arrive I've not done this here because I know you will not respond. Harambe?
All together.
We are somewhere, we are together somehow. All right? But there are places where when I arrive and say Harambe, then I have to teach them. It's a communication thing. So, in life, you are young, and I'm speaking to young people, you can't live life in oblivion. You need to start learning and looking at people. But most importantly, I told you now that you have a personal culture. What is it that sets you apart from other people? Because every time we come here and we say, what are you looking for in a man? You know exactly what a partner must be. Then when we say, now what do you bring to what the man is bringing?
All right.
Nothing. Because you don't know yourself. Are we working together? How much time do I still have, Chief? 5? 10?
Yes, it's 5 minutes.
5? Okay. How much time do you need to preach? 15. I'll take another 15. Okay, no, I'm not going to take my time, but I want to. There are these things that we call tensions in culture. Okay, I'm going to say these things very quickly. You find yourself in them. There are a few. Let me just cover a few. There are quite a number of them. I'll cover a few. Okay, let's start with this one. There are people who you live with, and you are some of these people. You live with yourself also, okay? There are people who are time-oriented, and there are people who are event-oriented.
Okay.
Hello?
All right.
People who are
Time oriented
and
event oriented.
time. You can be both, by the way. There are people who are time-oriented. People who are time-oriented are people when the church says Sabbath school starts at 9:15. At 9 they are sitting down.
Okay.
Are we walking together?
Amen.
And then there are people who are event-oriented, who when we say Sabbath school starts at 9, they arrive at 9:15 and they say, we are there. As long as we are,
There.
as long as we have arrived. Now, these things, they sound very simple, okay? They sound very simple, but I will tell you, I'm a pastor. I have counseled couples who fight over time and event orientation. Because and usually, listen to English before you scream. Usually, women are event oriented and men are time oriented. That's why in your family, at 8:30, your father is sitting on the couch while your mother is still in the bathroom. Are we walking together? And I'm not saying, listen to English, usually. Alright? So the time-oriented person cares about keeping time. Time-oriented people generally, usually between blacks and whites are time-oriented, blacks are event-oriented. In a white church, at 12, we are gone. If the pastor is still standing, they will start popping like popcorn here. 12, they are leaving. You will remain preaching alone. They are time-oriented. So amongst the people you live with, there are people who are very much time-oriented and you are event-oriented. And every week, both of you are fighting over the same thing. Why are you always late? Why are you always early? Right? So these things then cause a bit of a tension in how we interact with one another. And please pay attention that some of these tensions get to a place where they explode a relationship and it becomes dysfunctional completely. And the dysfunction of it is so deep, ladies. It's so deep that your husband will buy an extra car that he can't afford so that he arrives earlier than you. Am I working with you? And I'm building the dysfunction of it. He buys a car that the family can't afford so that he can stop depending or stop waiting for you. And then because of the new car that is bought that the family can't afford, there are financial fights in the family. And ultimately, this leads them to divorce. And when we sit down and we ask, why did they divorce? And we sit down and we question that, we discover that the divorce started because one is always late, one is always early. So you start learning as early as now to manage expectations between time and event. How do you work around it? It's actually, I don't know, man. I don't know if it's that simple. I'm not married yet. I don't know whether you can, if you know you're going to be late, can you wake up at 5 for a 10 o'clock appointment? Oh, you're still going to be late, so it means I'm going to go over there. Number 2, quickly. I want to finish quickly. Pastor, I'm going to take just 4 minutes of your time. Quickly. Number 2, there are people who are holistic thinkers and there are people who are dichotomistic thinkers. Let's say the last one. There are people who are holistic thinkers. Then there are people who are dichotomistic thinkers. Those who are dichotomistic, dichotomy. Those are people who, when their thought pattern takes longer, but they always arrive safe at the decision. Am I working with someone? Dichotomistic thinkers are people who break things down. They don't accept them for what they are until they have broken them down. A holistic thinker is a person that says, that's a brick, and it's a brick, and that's done. But a dichotomistic thinker says, a brick has sand, has cement, has what, and it was put together for it to be a brick. It's not just a brick, it's a combination of a number of things. A dichotomistic thinker is a person that always has plan B. A holistic thinker is, I want to be a pastor, I'm applying. They reject him. What are you going to do now? I don't know. A holistic thinker, a dichotomistic thinker says, I want to be a neurosurgeon. But if that fails, I will apply to be a cardiosurgeon. If that fails, I will then be a nurse, then get a degree in nursing, then walk my way into medicine. That's a dichotomistic that they plan. And as a result, dichotomistic thinkers usually arrive late in life, but they arrive safe.
Okay.
Am I working with someone? They arrive late in life, but they arrive safe. Holistic thinkers may arrive quickly, but crash. They just generally don't have a plan. And holistic thinkers are usually, hear me well, are usually men. Right? Holistic thinkers are usually men. A man says, I want a Range Rover and I'm going to buy it. But his dichotomistic wife says, okay, you want a Range Rover? Let's sit down and talk about it. How much is insurance? If we take this money, are we going to be able to pay the bond? What about the kids' school? What about this? A holistic thinker is a man that pulls a girl and says, I love you. But a dichotomistic thinker who is a girl, why?
Yes.
Why do you love me? Why do you love me? And because you are caught off guard as a holistic thinker, you must look for reasons right now.
Yeah.
Because of your nose. And then the dichotomistic thinker says, but my family nose looks the same. Why don't you want my sister?
Yeah.
Then you must find another reason. And she breaks it down also. So dichotomistic thinkers are like that. And they are like that in your friendships. That a holistic thinker says, let's go, Batikule camp meeting, let's go. A dichotomistic thinker who's your friend says, what are we going to eat?
Yeah.
Whose car are we using? Okay, so petrol. What are we going to wear where we are going? What if this happens? So those are the type of friendships. And as a result, a dichotomistic thinker and a holistic thinker always clash because the holistic is a risk taker. And they leave them behind. And a dichotomistic thinker is always by themselves, but they are always safe by themselves. Am I working with someone quickly? I'm trying to push through these things. I don't know if I'm going to be able to. Which one is much important for me here? People and task. There are people who are people-oriented, then there are people who are task-oriented. A task-oriented person is a person that says, I'm doing Sabbath school at 9:15, and they drive into a car accident, and they look at these people about to die, and they say, there's a task ahead.
Okay.
Then they pass. Then they go to church, then they do Sabbath school, and life goes on. But a people-oriented person will say, let the task suffer.
Yeah.
I will take care of people. Right? So there are friendships like that. There are relationships like that. There are relationships where the task is always important, more important than you.
Yeah. No?
Can I say that one more time?
Yeah.
The task. You are in a relationship where your girlfriend always wants to study than spend time with you. Or they neglect studying and spend time with you. There's always that tension. That hey, we are together here, but we don't value things the same.
Yeah.
And sometimes you feel like this person does not value your relationship because they are always focused on the task. Or you sometimes feel like this one is not serious about life because they are always focused on me.
Okay.
Am I working with someone quickly here?
Yeah.
So that we close this thing very quickly. So when you are in relationships and friendships, I'm trying to get us to understand something very important. You need to understand your culture. You need to understand where you were born versus where they were born. You need to understand where you are versus where they are. You need to get to a point. You are going to get married one day. Am I working with someone? Even me. No one is safe. We must all get married. No one must go unpunished. You will get married one day. Let me tell you, the person you marry is not the person you met.
Okay.
Alright? The person you are going to marry is not the person you would have met 3 years ago, depending on how long you want to take before. And the person you marry today will not be the same person tomorrow. Because you met a person that works at Vodacom. And they established their friendships at Vodacom, and there was nothing new to learn at Vodacom. But they needed a bigger salary, then they went to MTN, that paid them better. But when they arrived at MTN, they realized that here straight back doesn't work here. Here straight back doesn't work. Here we speak inches here. We're working together.
Right.
And a lot of men would probably assume that this one has found a man that they want to impress. No. They have learned a new thing where they are going. That here, it's inches time here.
Okay.
Then they come and trouble you. And they want inches from you. But the important thing that you must understand is that they have learned. And they have developed. They have become something new. Even you have the potential to become something new. Because everywhere we go, listen to me, I'm a pastor now of churches in Johannesburg. You guys know those churches. Last week, one of my churches was doing the rounds.
Yeah.
You know that church? Last week, one of my churches was doing the rounds because of a guy that came and sang Yaba Yaba Ye at my church. Did you guys see that on social media? You saw that? I'm the pastor of that church. I grew up in a church where stuff like that would not happen. But where it happened, you guys are making noise on social media. There, we are fine. Just by way, I'm using example. So now, my cultural perspective of how things happen in church also changes. I'm going to struggle when I leave Johannesburg, if they transfer me anytime soon, and they send me to Limpopo, deep in Venda. I'm going to struggle because now I must go back to this particular culture. I must leave that one. And that's what happens in life. People learn and people develop. You learn and you yourself develop. And so we must get to a place where we begin to understand that the friends that we have will not always be the same. They are learning, they are developing. Are we working together?
Amen.
One last one. Crisis-oriented and non-crisis oriented. Do you know friends like that? There are people who are crisis oriented, and there are people who are non-crisis oriented. People who are crisis oriented are usually women, usually. And people who are non-crisis oriented are usually males. Crisis oriented, it's self-explanatory. Who's camping? Ladies, who's sleeping here? You're sleeping here the whole week. Are you sure? We are doing an experiment. Please stand this side. I'm left-handed. I always prefer people on my left. I'm going to do an experiment. It's Sabbath today. By the mercies of Christ, be honest. Yes, you're going to be honest in your answer. I'm going to ask you a question, and you're going to answer me honestly. Before you arrived at this dress, how many more did you wear? 2. So this is number 3. So she tried on 2 dresses before she arrived at the third one. Right? You can sit down. Thank you so much. Brother, you were camping, right? Come here. Maybe I should not ask you, but I'll ask you. How many outfits did you wear before you arrived at this one? Just this one. And that's a man. That's a man for you, and that's a woman for you. So a man does not think crisis. Not at all. If West, had it been that we came in here yesterday, just yesterday, I can guarantee you that she would have still had 3 dresses for today. Even if we came last night here, this man left home with 1 outfit for today. That's how non-crisis a man is. But a woman thinks like this. Crisis orientation. I want to wear this dress. That's a woman.
Yeah.
But what if Pinky has it also? I don't want to look like Pinky. That's a crisis.
What if
I don't want to wear what she is wearing. She puts aside and says, I'm going to wear this. But in case somebody has it, I must bring this one now. I'll bring change. Then she puts this one together. But then she looks at this one and says, what if it rains? What if it rains? Then she packs a warmer looking dress.
Yeah.
But what if it doesn't and it's too hot? Then she packs a lighter dress. But a man says, I mean, that's why we are not married yet, but you see it when we go for youth camps and stuff like that.
Hey.
A man's bag is this small.
Yeah.
Then a woman comes with
Yo.
5 bags.
Hey.
Because those are crisis-oriented people. You watch TV and these celebrities. When a male celebrity dies, there's always need for us to put together funds for them because they did not have insurance. But when all these female dies, there's never that fuss around them because they put together all these things. Men, no, that's why when like I use the example, I'm going to buy a car and it's a Golf 7 and I heard that it's 11,000 a month. That's all I think about. But your wife will tell you, sir, service, tires, insurance. These days we have pothole insurance, screen insurance, what dent insurance.
Yo.
Your wife will put the list down and ask you, do you still want that car? Crisis and non-crisis orientation. So, I'm closing. We must start singing and have a wonderful time in the Lord. In all these things that I've just shared together with you, there's something that we call incarnation ministry.
Okay.
Incarnation.
Ministry.
This is the very same thing that Jesus did. When Jesus was 200%, Jesus was 200, a person of 200% wood. I don't know if that's English. Doesn't sound like English, but it's not our language.
But it
We
is.
understand each other. He was a 200% human. He was 100% divine
Yes.
and 100% human. And all these 2 people, 100% of them came and became one in him. So in other words, Jesus, to the time-oriented person, Jesus was time-oriented.
Okay.
To the event-oriented person, Jesus was event-oriented. To the holistic thinker person, Jesus was holistic. So Paul even puts it further. He says, I became all things to all men, that by all means I may win some to Christ. In other words, Paul became 200% also. At the time, that's why Paul said, when I arrived and the Greeks were eating, I ate with them. I became one of them. And when the Romans were eating, I ate with them. I became one of them. I became all things to all of them, so that by all means we may be able to live together in harmony. So I'm teaching you these cultural things. I'm talking about them, and they sound nice and not so complicated, but please find yourself in them. And the people you are in relations with, find them in them, so that you may begin to live in harmony with one another. Hey, in conclusion, do you know that there are people in life who got divorced because of toothpaste?
Yeah.
Toothpaste. True story. Where I come from, my home in Warrington, it does not matter where you press toothpaste.
Yeah.
Press it in the middle, brush your teeth, put that thing down. But where she comes from, she's looking at me with disgust, this one. Because where she comes from, it's pressed from the bottom up. Are we walking together? Press from the bottom, then you push it up. I come from where I just press, brush, go. Now, there's a couple somewhere in this country who for 7 years The wife kept saying, press from the bottom.
Yo, Nkosi yami.
Yes.
She refused to accept for 7
Yeah,
years
yeah.
that the man just presses from the middle. And the man for 7 years refused to listen to the woman by pressing from the bottom. 7 years. And ultimately, when their marriage was falling apart, they sat in a counseling session and the counselor said, what is the problem? And they both looked at each other and they said, she doesn't listen, he doesn't listen. And when the root of he doesn't listen was researched, they discovered that every morning they are fighting about toothpaste for 7 years.
Yo.
He's been doing everything right. He's been packing his socks in the basket. She's been cooking on time if you are into gender roles. They've been doing them very well all the time, both of them. All other things they were doing right, but toothpaste was where they fought, and that's where the woman decided that the man doesn't listen. Although when she calls and says, pick up the kids, and the man says, I will do so, and he goes. Although when he says, please tonight, can we just have pap and meat? I'm tired of pap and milk. And she listens. For 7 years they've been working together very well. But toothpaste broke them apart. So, and it sounds light, né? But some things are that important. They start that small and they grow that big, and things fall apart in that big. So, you are young people, I kindly ask you now to not live in oblivion. Study yourself. Understand yourself as opposed to other people. And when you get into friendships, it can't just be about vibes. Yeah, play, my friend. Yeah. Can't just be about vibes, otherwise I won't stop. Can't just always be about vibes, that when we get together, we are going to eat ice cream and talk about this and that. It can't always be vibes. You must start to have genuine conversations. What hurts you? What excites you? What troubles you? When the lights are off, what do you cry about? Why are you always late? Why are you always on time? What time can we make this thing? How can we meet each other halfway? Build genuine relationships based on genuine conversations. You can't be taught to communicate at the counseling table when you're about to get married. Start now, learn now. Communicate your emotions. And then I am just like that. No.
Yeah.
Deal with your emotions. Deal with your emotions. Study yourself. Tell us nicely in church that this is what makes me angry, so that we try to accommodate you. Don't arrive here without having told us anything and you throw tantrums. We don't know how to deal with that.
Yeah.
We don't know you. We don't know you. Right? So also when you walk around life, look at people's behavior. Learn. Let me tell you, in Venda, I'm closing for sure. I started my ministry in Venda. And in Venda, they are so time oriented, it bored me. Yo. Venda, when they say 7, it's 7. If at 5 they don't see me, they panic, they call. Bafunzi, where are you?
Yes.
Where are you? That time I'm 30 minutes away. And I had to learn to be time oriented.
Yeah.
I had to learn to wake up. I had to learn to put my things in order. I did not decide on Sabbath what tie I'm wearing. I decided it on Friday already. I had to learn to put things together. And I had to learn that in Venda at 10 to 9, I'm at the gate. Because around 5 to, you start seeing people walking, flooding in like ants. Where are they coming from? At the same time, then they start singing. And then the church transferred me. They sent me to the Free State. I arrived at 10 to 9. I saw the first person coming in at 10.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, and I did that for a long time. It frustrated me so much. Until I got to a point where I realized, okay, they are event-oriented. I'm going to be their pastor and be event-oriented. After that, we lived in so much perfect harmony. I did not cry about time. They did not cry about me being early. I knew that when I said the meeting is at 9, it's going to start at 10.
Yeah.
I arrived and I was fine with that. So I'm just saying to all of us right now, to avoid battles and fights and disagreements and stuff like that, young people, we need to get to a place where we really think about who we are. We need to think about what we are about. More than that, we have to think about what other people around us are about, so that ultimately we may be able to live together in one big bowl of harmony. Are we walking together? Wish we had more time to deal with these things, but you got the point. Can I see people who are saying that they are time oriented? Oh my God. About 5 of you. Those who are event oriented? Of course. Those who are a bit of both? It happens, by the way. A bit of both. Because even with me, when it's important to me, you'll see me on time. When I don't care about it, I'll arrive when I arrive. Honestly speaking. Dichotomistic thinker? Those who break things apart? Holistic thinker? A bit of both? What did we do? Task oriented?
Task or people, well.
Task? People oriented? A bit of both? Self-centered? Somebody put it, and it's fine. We must understand her. She is a self-centered people are people. I'm a bit like you. Who just want to be by themselves, just alone in the car, in the midst of a crowd. They want to disappear. When they want to come back, they will come back, and we must accept them and respect that. Respect your child. Don't force her. Learn and study her. All right, thank you so much. I don't know if we will ever have time to discuss this, but if you have questions, is there a question? Okay, thank you so much. This confirms something that I've been complaining about a lot in my life. I'm a very good teacher. I'm a teacher. Either I'm a teacher or you were not listening. All right, thank you so much, guys, for indulging me. Let us close our eyes as we pray together.